Attorney Kaufman, good morning. How are you today?
I'm well, had a bit of a break, 2 weeks away, but I'm fine.
How is our beloved former President Rodrigo Duterte, sir?
No, I just come out from singing. He's in good spirits as usual.
Sir, I have a series of questions. My first one is that the ICC plenary unanimously rejected former President Duterte's request to disqualify 2 judges. What is your reaction to this decision, sir?
I trust the judges, and I trust the judges took the decision that they took for the right reasons. I have no reason to doubt them. Furthermore, new information has come to light, which I'm not at liberty to disclose, but it would have made a difference had I known about it before I made the request to disqualify the judges.
Okay. Sir, what does this outcome suggest about the ICC's impartiality and the integrity of its judicial process, especially in politically sensitive cases
like this?
I'm not going to impugn the impartiality or the partiality of the International Criminal Court. As far as I'm concerned, the judges are doing their job as they're expected to do, given their mandate under the Rome Statute. I have no reason whatsoever to doubt their integrity.
Sir, if the investigation proceeds and leads to prosecution, what legal consequences could President Duterte realistically face under international law?
Well, I'm hoping that this case won't proceed to prosecution because we have a confirmation hearing, first of all, and we have a number of live issues which we're litigating at the present moment in time. So I suggest we cross that bridge when we come to it.
Sir, would you know that if there's really a clear timeline regarding the adjudication of the motion for the interim release?
I would hope that within the month it would be decided. As I said, we've currently in the process of making our request for leave to reply. We hope to be able to reply to the prosecution's response to our request for interim release, and then the judges will rule. Under the Rome Statute, the judges are meant to rule on a request for interim release as speedily as possible.
Sir, in relation to that, many people in the Philippines were a bit confused when you previously stated that the prosecution did not oppose your request for interim release, and then apparently the prosecution's response or written observation with respect to the interim release request is that they strongly oppose that. Can you clarify that?
Attorney.
Once again, I stand by what I said. There was originally a non-opposition to interim release, but I'm not going to litigate the case now in the media. The case is a live issue, the matter is a live issue, before the court, and I'm not allowed to litigate it by way of social media.
Thank you, sir.
There are reports claiming that Belgium and Australia declined to host former President Duterte during his interim release. What is the truth behind this?
Well, I don't know where Kristina Conti, because I guess that's who you're referring to, got that from. I'm not going to comment on any country. I'm not allowed to. These matters are confidential. But I assume that Kristina Conti, knowing the way that she thinks, has looked at the interim release agreements at the court and has decided that Belgium, because Belgium has signed an interim release treaty, is the destination or the proposed destination for President Duterte. I'm not going to comment on that. The same goes, by the way, for the Honourable Justice Minister or the Secretary for Justice in the Philippines, Mr. Remula, who's decided that there's a Latin American country that's prepared to receive President Duterte. Once again, I assume that he thinks we're talking about Argentina because, once again, Argentina has signed an interim release agreement with the International Criminal Court. I'm not going to comment on that.
The Department of Justice in the Philippines reportedly sponsoring witnesses in the ICC case against the President Duterte because, as you mentioned, sir, all evidence related to the former chief executive's war on crime has already been destroyed. He mentioned that. What's your comment on that?
Sponsoring witnesses to cooperate or encouraging witnesses to cooperate? I don't know. We'll investigate that matter, and if it's true, then they will be cross-examined, those witnesses, in court, and these allegations will be put to them.
Sir, pertaining to the interim release, the annex terms and conditions, specifically paragraph 32, mentions that President Duterte will refrain from public engagement, holding office, and communicating with individuals outside his family. How does this affect the mandate given to him by the people of Davao as their newly elected mayor?
I look at the events in Davao and the elections as something else entirely. I view it as a vote of support for President Duterte, the former president, and I view it as a rejection of what was done to him by the current incumbent government. I don't view that as a mandate to rule Davao. Yes, of course, if he was released, then he would rule Davao, but he's not. He's sitting here in a prison. Physically, he is not able to govern at the present moment in time. It would be irresponsible for him, and he has told me that.
Are there already arrangements for his oath taking?
I'm not going to comment on that matter.
Okay.
Who is exactly considered outside his family in the context of the interim release, sir?
Well, interim release, once again, is a matter which has to be decided. And also the scope of people who are in his family will also be decided.
Sir, could appeals or objections from civil society groups or international organizations influence the court's decision on the urgent interim release motion?
The victims have a right to make their voice heard, and they can comment on the application for interim release. And the court has already ordered the victims to make their observations known. They do that through a dedicated office in the court, which is called the OPCV, and the OPCV has responded.
Sir, in this particular question, should the Philippines is already a non-member state of the ICC, to the Rome Statute. Is it legally possible for it to voluntarily offer to host President Duterte during his interim release?
Even non-state parties
Can host persons who are on interim release from the International Criminal Court, should the court approve it. Obviously, we would want President Duterte to go back to the Philippines. But if I'm not mistaken, the government has already stated, point blank, that it's not prepared to receive him.
Will the public eventually be informed, sir, about which government or governments, if any, has expressed willingness to receive President Duterte should interim release be granted?
I anticipate that could be the case in due course, indeed.
Sir, this
This question is highly political. Has your meeting with Senator Amy Marcos had any direct or indirect bearing on President Duterte's case before the ICC? Or if you're able to share what was the nature of or the purpose of your meeting?
I'm able to share that. It was me who asked to see Senator Amy Marcos. I wanted to see her because I saw her in action in the committee hearings. I was impressed by what she had to say. I was impressed by the way she handled those hearings. And I was impressed also by the conclusions and the report that she produced. So I asked to meet her in order to receive that report. And I did.
thank you, sir. Sir,
And by the way,
just go ahead.
that report hasn't been published on the Senate website. I wonder why.
Thank you, sir. Is it legally realistic for former President Duterte to seek any form of remedy or protection under Dutch domestic law while under the jurisdiction of ICC?
Well, I think I know where that comes from. There's some Filipino lawyer who suggested that he might be able to seek remedies under Dutch law. That's not the case.
Sir, the last question. Is it common for the Office of the Prosecutor to express no opposition to a motion such as the interim release? Or is this unusual and specific only to the President Duterte's case?
As I said, in the past, it's possible in offences against justice cases. However, this would be the first time if the prosecution do follow through on their original non-opposition, which was stated to me for one particular matter. If they follow through on that, that would be the first time in an Article 5 case involving atrocity crimes or alleged atrocity crimes that the prosecution will express non-opposition to interim release, yes.
Attorney Kaufman, do you have any message to the Filipino people who is closely following the development of the case of President
Duterte?
Yes, I do. As I said, respect the judicial process. A lot of gossip, a lot of allegations have been made, especially by people like Attorney Kristina Conti, that the supporters of former President Duterte are threatening witnesses or trolling judges. That is simply not true. Just respect the judicial process.
Thank you, Attorney Kaufman.
God bless you. I love it. Thank you, sir.